Isolation transformer. It used to be that most AC powered gear had a linear power supply, which shifted the incoming voltage down to a lower one through a transformer operating at the 60 Hz line frequency. The transformer, an assembly of two or more coils of wire on an iron core, had no electrical connection between its input and output. The energy was transferred magnetically. This arrangement helped with safety because it meant that the circuitry you might touch was not directly connected to the house wiring and thus couldn't find a path to ground through that most delicate of all resistors. You, unfortunately, to move a lot of power required a big, heavy transformer. Today's switching power supplies or switchers chop the incoming power into fast bursts to push lots of energy through a small, light transformer. They're much more dangerous to work on because some of their circuitry is connected directly to the AC line and it may have several hundred volts on it, and often it's the section that needs repair. An isolation transformer is just a big old style AC line transformer into which you can plug your device. The transformer has a 1-to-1 voltage ratio, so it doesn't change the power in any way, but it isolates it from the AC line, making service of switchers a lot safer. If you are going to work on switching power supplies while they are connected to the AC line, you must have an isolation transformer. Many times, you can pick switchers while they are unpowered, so having an isolation transformer is optional. Just don't ever consider working on a live switcher without one. Seriously, you don't want the power supply to wind up being the only thing in the room that's live, if you know what I'm saying. Isolation transformers are essential to safely work on many types of equipment with exposed AC line connections or live chassis. Variable transformers provide a convenient way to control the input voltage to equipment to determine whether a fault still exists or to evaluate performance at a low or high line voltage. An isolation transformer is very important for safely when working on live chassis equipment. Make it a habit to use an isolation transformer whenever possible. Portions of TVs, monitors, switch mode power supplies, and many other types of equipment are generally fed from a direct connection to the AC line without a power transformer, which would provide the isolation function. The DC power rails will typically be between 150 and 300 volts with momentary current availability of multiple amps. Since earth, ground, and the neutral of the power line are connected together at your service panel, fuse or circuit breaker box, grounds like cold water pipes, test equipment chassis, and even a damp concrete floor make suitable returns for the line voltage. Hot or live wire since this is just as true with the conductor being wire or your body. Such a situation is very dangerous. An isolation transformer, as its name implies, provides a barrier such that accidental contact with an earth ground results in negligible current flow only due to parasitic capacitance and inductance of the transformer. A slight tingle at worst. This also protects your test equipment, as well as the device you are troubleshooting, since a similar accidental contact can result in a short circuit, sparks, smokes, and many destroyed parts. Typical homemade isolation transformer. For supercritical applications like in hospitals where every microamp of leakage counts, special isolation transformers are available, no doubt at equally super costs, which have shielding between the primary and secondary to minimize the interwinding capacitance and inductance as well. This should not really be necessary for general servicing. Not all definitions of the term isolation transformer are created equal. For some purpose, this may mean just preventing line-borne electrical noise from passing to the equipment. So, if you acquire something called an isolation transformer on its nameplate, confirm that the primary and secondary are indeed not tied together by a low resistance. If they are, it can probably be modified for service needs by disconnecting a jumper, but it may not have the insulation ratings desirable for high voltage isolation. Isolation transformers from dead microwave ovens. It's not as hard as you think to find inexpensive isolation transformers at the next Hampest. Look for someone selling dead UPS, uninterruptible power sources, or other power conditioning equipment. Isolation transformers are often sold for use in the computer industry. That's how I get mine, for hundreds of pesos. If I wanted, definitely increase my safely and confidence level. How safe is a homemade isolation transformer? Some people will claim that because it is homemade from salvaged parts, it cannot be as safe as a commercial unit. Keep in mind that I am not talking about using something that has been rusting away in a damp basement for 20 years. The power transformers from tube-type TVs or audio amplifiers must have been designed with isolation requirements in mind to obtain regulatory approval. In the first place, since they are used in equipment where the user may come in contact with metal parts. Also, the use of an isolation transformer is no excuse to ignore the other aspects of safe troubleshooting. It is easy to test for AC and DC leakage, and this should be done to be sure that your transformers are in a good condition. With two transformers, the probability of a failure is even smaller. Personally, I would trust the homemade transformer over a cheap import any day.